What's going on, people? This is Shy Harris, and this is
Elle Harris,
and this is another edition of Keepin It Lite. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So today, actually, this weekend, was it this weekend?
Friday or Thursday?
Yeah, we'll say Friday. So Friday, me and my wife was having a debate. Or I asked her a question, right? Asked the question, does marriage, or does being a Christian, does the Bible,
That's the church.
does the church, that's the best way to phrase it. Does the church prepare you to have a great sex life in marriage? And I actually got that question. I was watching one of the Kev on Stage and his wife videos that they had. He actually mentioned it. He actually just briefly went into it. And then it just had me thinking that the Bible will tell you, and church in general will tell you to abstain from sex, be abstinent, be a virgin. And then as soon as you say I do, you pretty much are told that you need to bust it open, do whatever you want, just live wild. But there's really no middle ground in that of, going from sin to maybe, hey, it's okay to have sex, or it's okay to start thinking of sex outside of it being a sin, to then go to marriage. It's like pretty much like one extreme or the others, but there's a lot of middle ground when it comes to sex. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, you just said that it made me think about, I don't know if you remember this, but when we were in marriage counseling, which I feel like is probably the best place to begin talking about that, especially as you prepare to make that transition. We were in marriage counseling. We were talking about kissing. Mm-hmm. And you remember the guy was like, you shouldn't be kissing. Right, and the crazy part about that was he couldn't give me any...
And that's when he lost me at. Okay.
He couldn't give me any biblical reference. He gave me a reference from the pastor. He said his literal words were out of the mouth of Bishop. Mm-hmm. Not out of the mouth of God, Jesus, none of that. Mm-hmm. Out of the mouth of Bishop.
So he said something about you shouldn't be inserting yourself into your wife, even if that's just like your tongue or whatever like that. Mm-hmm. And in my head, I called him a clown after that.
And I think that was an immediate shutdown.
Yeah. I like, yeah.
Like it immediately. And just not even for him, it's just like if for anyone, that should have been the perfect place to begin the transition.
Right.
Now, even your conversation the other day, it went further than just abstaining in the transition. You actually started talking about being a virgin. And how does a woman go from being a virgin to being married, and then just the guy expecting to just have all this free and regular sex? Because that's when we call one of my friends who...
But my main question was,
I get your main question, but I just want to bring that in to add another layer.
All right. Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts on...
So I feel like this. Though I was not a virgin when I got married, I feel like had I been a virgin, had my husband been a virgin, I feel like God would honor that. And I know that you probably come in not having any experience, but I just feel like if you kept a vow, I feel like God will honor that, and you wouldn't have a horrible sex life because you've honored that vow. The beauty in both of you coming together, being virgins, is that you get to learn each other. Like you get to tailor make your experiences just for your pleasure on each side without any reference. Because I feel like even with men, if I'm a man and my girl is a virgin, I'm pretty much giving her the pleasure of what someone else enjoyed. And what if she doesn't like any of that at all? So I just feel like there's honor in that.
But that doesn't answer the question, though.
What was the question?
The question is, does the church prepare you?
Oh, no. It was back there. We haven't built back up to the church part yet. We were talking about virgins and how I felt about that. So now, going forward, do I feel like even as a virgin, even as someone who says a reborn again virgin, whatever you want to call it, the church does not prepare you for that. The church gives you that one scripture about the bedroom being undefiled. So that they pretty much use that to say like, well, once you get married, you can do whatever you want to do.
You can wave your freak flag if you want.
Mm-hmm. And I'll
bust it open.
Whatever you want to do in the confines of your marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So I do not believe that the church adequately prepares people for that, because what if I get married to someone who wants to do things to me that I think I may not like oral sex? You know what I'm saying? When do I have the time to talk about that? Wouldn't it be a great idea to have that conversation during marriage counseling? I may want anal sex. Isn't that a great time to be able to talk about that during marriage counseling? Because in my head, if I'm following biblical principles, I'm thinking, shoot, when we get married, everything is, I could do what I want to do. And my wife should be okay with that. But what if the wife isn't okay with that? Like that shit, I feel like...
What if the wife is a freak and you're not really into that? You're just like your missionary, yeah?
Yep.
But she wants to, lick your booty hole or something like that.
Anything at all. But when do you... I think you feel like you want to make a joke.
I wasn't making a joke. That was a very serious comment.
But I feel like there's no room, and I feel like that could be very dangerous to a marriage, because you could come in with this whole idea of thinking, I can do whatever I want. But if you've never had that conversation in a safe place where someone can mediate that conversation, it could be kind of scary. And I don't know, maybe the church is too scared to have those conversations. What do you think?
I definitely think they are, because otherwise they're pretty much condoning premarital sex.
I don't think you're condoning premarital sex by having a conversation about sex.
I feel like that's how they feel. I personally don't feel that way. Because I feel like the church from the beginning of time has always said sex before marriage is a sin. Mm-hmm. So it really just starts at that conversation. Like, I mean, of course, in the Bible, sex before marriage is a sin, but they pretty much condemn you if you are having sex before marriage. So I
don't necessarily say they condemn you, but I feel like that's the go-to sin.
Yeah,
fornication is the
fornication is the go-to sin.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But they never really talk about like what's that transition point that makes it like, yo, sex is cool, sex is pleasurable. Mm-hmm. You should enjoy sex, you should love sex, you should, it should be a part of your life, instead of it just being a sin to, you can do it freely. And
not only a sin, I would say a tease. And what I mean by that is, before I was married, I've seen several conversations being held from a pulpit where people was like, yeah, that's my wife, and can't wait to get her home. This is only for married folks. Mm. Like, when you say stuff like that, you automatically make single people feel like, oh, I can't enjoy. Like, one day they will, but saying those type of things.
What about the people that don't get married?
It shuns them. It's like, ugh,
yeah.
And I've never liked that. I feel like it's dismissiveness. If that's the title to put on it, like, I understand that, yeah, that's not what they're supposed to be doing, but to say it out loud, do you have to say it? I feel like that may be going a little bit too far. So there's this gap where you can't have this. I can enjoy it. Let me tell you, I'm eating this lollipop. And it's good, but you can't have any of it. Mm. And I'm doing it right in your face. I'm telling you about it in your face. So I think that's another issue, but no one's brave enough to have those conversations. And I wonder, why can't we have those conversations in church? Now, even in elementary school, because I know you were saying the church may feel like by having those conversations, it condones you to have sex. Mm. You learn about...
Well, they promote sex. I'll say
they're promoting sex.
Yeah.
I don't think so, because think about in middle school, we learned about sex ed 6th grade, right?
It didn't make it sound fun, though.
It doesn't matter if it was fun or not. That's when we started learning. That didn't mean they condoned it. That's just when they started to tell you about it, because your body's changing and you need to know what's happening with these changes. So...
But I feel like they wouldn't be able to do it the same way Coach Lowry did in 7th grade.
Hi, Coach Lowry.
Coach Lowry, yeah. You can't do it like that just because I feel like in sex ed, they make it super clinical. They never said this is for pleasure. Just all right, a man has a penis, a woman has a vagina. These are the parts of the body. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really say if you insert that penis into that vagina, you get magic. So it never says anything like that.
Right.
So I feel like the church.
So you're
couldn't
saying
do it
if
like
the
that.
church is saying like
The church would have to speak about it from a pleasure sense or a fun sense, a non-sinful sense.
now, I do recall one time we weren't married yet, but I do recall the church having someone from Pure Romance come in.
But I feel
Now-
like that was probably only for married people too.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What if you're a single woman and want to get your toys? Yeah.
Now that's interesting because there's no scripture in the Bible that says that you shouldn't masturbate. And this could be controversial because some people would say
That's not sex.
there's a Bible verse, and I'm probably not quoting it right, but it talks about like not spilling your seed.
Mm-hmm.
So people use that as saying like there shouldn't be any masturbation. But
Are women spilling seeds, or is that just a man thing?
I don't know. It's controversial. Like it's one of those things you gotta
I don't know.
be
scripture,
convicted
so,
or
yeah.
not be convicted by it. But yeah, like so would you prefer for a woman to pleasure herself instead of going out and having sex with a man? Like that. These are conversations I feel like that should be held at church.
They definitely should.
They should be held instead of fornication being used as a weapon. I feel like
You shouldn't be weaponizing. I was gonna say something crazy. Shouldn't be weaponizing sex. So, matter of fact, let me ask you this. So, do you feel like this is another thing, conversation that particular debate had? Do you feel like there are people out there? I won't say just women, but do you feel like there are people out there who were raised in the church, who were taught all their life that sex is a sin, and fornication is a sin? That once they actually get married, across that threshold, that they are, I ain't gonna say timid, but are reluctant or fearful of having sex just because all their life they were told that it was a sin. And they could even go from like just regular sex, oral sex, anything like that.
now, okay, I'll say this. When I remember like growing up, my mom will always say like, don't have sex, you'll get pregnant. And so for me, I always looked at it as this bad thing because it's like, oh, it's going to do something to me that could change my whole life.
Right.
So I guess I can, at first I didn't agree with that, but just having that thought in my mind, I think it's because you've been conditioned that this is bad, bad, bad. Now you're in a space where you have to open up.
Literally.
Like literally open up and receive someone and become one with someone. So I think it could probably be scary, especially if you heard so many bad things about it. Now, on the flip side of that, should a man expect for it to be 5 times a week? Like because his wife is a virgin and he waited say he wasn't a virgin, he waited for her, during her time before they got married, and I waited. I was celibate with you. So now you need to be busting it open. Do you feel like a man has the right to like want it all the time, or should he be patient for his wife to build up to being comfortable with it?
I personally feel like you should be patient. Am I being real?
Are you?
Am I being real? I think you should be patient. You shouldn't be like, all right, we got to do it every time I see you, every time I wake up, every time I go to sleep. But I also feel like it's not right for either party if those moments happen months in between. Because I feel like you still have to practice to kind of
build
get
up to it. Yeah.
Right. Because I just think of like when I was a virgin, I lost my virginity at 16. And I just know like the first couple of times of me having sex, it wasn't like a frequent thing. It was like even after the first time, I was still kind of nervous. So it probably happened like a couple of months, like 3, 4, 5 months after that. And then once I started to get the flow of it or try to get the rhythm of it, then, it started happening a little bit more frequently. And I became more comfortable with myself and, how I should treat, the woman I'm with. So I feel like, to answer your question, it doesn't have to be an everyday thing, but it should be pretty frequent where you start trying to get the ropes of it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I guess that kind of makes sense. Now, what if it doesn't change? What if it's I'm not really feeling this. I love you, but this is not something
that you
that I
want
want
to
to do. Or
to me, I feel like that's a woman. So you probably be the one to answer that.
I feel like there's so many layers. God, I have so much to say about this.
We got a little bit of time.
Because it even makes me think about women who come into a marriage, women who have sexual trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you come into a marriage and say you've, been really active in church.
Can we take sexual trauma off the table just because I know that goes...
No, let me tell you why I bring that up. Because it goes back into that transition that we were talking about with the church.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like being able to have those safe conversations with whoever is giving you counsel during that time and being open. Because what if you've never told your husband about that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like because you may not know, this girl could have been saving herself because something traumatic happened. And, it's just a lot that comes with that. And if that person has never been healed or properly talked about that situation, and then they jump into a marriage, you could look at it from the standpoint of, oh, she just don't want to have sex with me. But you don't know what she's carrying, and you don't know how she knows how to open up after that bad experience. So I say all that to say it goes back to what we talked about earlier. The church needs to have that transition because of people like that.
Okay, so, all right, I understand that. That makes perfect sense. That makes all the sense.
Yes.
But what about women who are just scared to have sex? Who, like, maybe once they had it, they realize, like, I don't like it or whatever. Which I don't really know how that's possible, per se.
It's possible.
Yeah, I don't know. But I want to just, like, how can you work around that situation? If there's no sexual trauma, it's just...
Because I think, and what men don't, I'm not going to say people, what men don't understand is there's so many things that happen. Like, for instance, with a man, right? During sex with a man, if you say something weird, it could kill your whole mood. You don't want to have sex anymore. With women...
I feel like that happens with everybody, though.
No. With women, you could kill the mood or say, I could have a million things going on in my head about what we talked about and they're not pleasurable thoughts and I can still have sex with you.
Because women are sociopaths.
But, that... So I think it's just like the conversation. Like women being able to understand that that's why you feel this way. This may not feel good. Do you watch porn as a Christian? Like, how do you learn? Is there Christian porn?
There's not Christian porn. I feel like TD Jakes needs to make some porn.
No! Christian
Transformation Church should just do a porn series.
I mean, but like, how else do you learn? Because it can't be... I mean, of course you don't want to watch... You don't want... How else do you learn? Like, how do you teach people? How do you teach people as a Christian? How do you teach them? Because guys, before you have sex, what do you learn to have sex as a man? Do you just...
I like porn.
Okay. Like, or how else do you learn? Do you just like, oh, I heard the hole down there. Let me try it. Like, how do you...
It's probably more so porn because nobody talks about sex.
Your parents don't talk about it.
Let's do this. Let's keep it all the way real. We're putting this on the church, but nobody talks about sex for real.
Yeah.
Your parents don't talk about it. Your school doesn't talk about it. Your friends really don't talk about it in a educational or purposeful way. Like,
shoot, my friends do.
At that time?
Oh no, I'm talking about now.
Yeah. Well, guys really don't talk about it. Well, they talk about it from the perspective of like, all right, I got to beat it down or something like that. But it's never like I can say educational, but it's never like something that you can learn from. It's just like, all right, this is how I feel. This is how I want to do it. Bam, bam, bam. But it's never like,
or I should try this, or this may be why you feel this way when this happens, or just coaching, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you think men can put their egos to the side so that they can have those conversations? Because maybe it's ego.
It's all ego.
Mm-hmm.
It's all ego.
Because most men be thinking they be buzzing it down and they ain't doing nothing.
It's definitely all ego. Like, I feel like with you is the first time I actually asked questions like, so what do you like? And I know even when we first got married, it'd be like 6 months and I was like, so do you still like these type of things? Or, you know, if you want to try something different? Whatever the case may be. But you were probably like the first person I ever tried that with. So.
Do you think it's important for people to have those conversations?
Most definitely. Because I feel like women change.
Absolutely.
Guys change.
Absolutely.
So you need to know what your partner is into, what they have interest in, what they don't like doing.
Or what's got played out.
What's got played out.
Because do you feel like, because I think we talked about this a lot, do men care about having sex the same routine every time, or do they just care about having sex?
I think it depends on the frequency of the sex.
Okay.
If sex only happens once every 2 months, then you're just trying to get some.
Yeah.
You're like an animal at that point. However it's thrown at you, you're gonna take it.
Okay.
But if you're having sex pretty frequently, you're like, all right, well, we need to switch it up because we're having sex multiple times throughout the week. So we can't just keep doing the same thing because that's get boring and whack and it's predictable.
Yeah.
But if you just continuously have sex, you know, once every blue moon, then it's just like, all right, we doing it from the side, we doing it from the side, or whatever the case may be.
Now, do you feel like women should be able to have those conversations? Because now I feel like we're kind of tasked with telling marriage people about the transition.
I don't think we are.
We are, because we're here. We're here. So, do you feel like women should be able to tell a man if something is boring to them, if they're tired of the same thing, and can a man's ego handle it? Because I feel like it can't.
To me, I feel like it's a two-way street. I feel like men need to put their ego to the side and realize that they might not be, you know, beating it down the way they think they are. And with that comes humility to be able to say, like, these are the things that you like, instead of assuming that these are the things that my wife likes or these are the things that my partner likes. Because with that comes learning, you'll be able to really start to pay attention instead of being like, all right, well, you know, I've been doing this one move for 15 years and like all the women love this joint. You know, when I put the legs behind the head and hold it against the chandelier or something like that, you know, all of them like that. So you realize that, you know, your wife might not like this particular move. She might like this move, but if you switch it up just a little bit, it might be a little bit better. So I feel like men need to definitely do more of that. And then women need to, I feel like a lot of women, I can't speak for everybody because I haven't been with all the women, but women, a lot more women need to start having those sexual conversations. A lot of women I know look like they kind of shy away from that. So if you start to have those sexual conversations and be able to say, all right, well, you know, I like it when you do this, but, you know, this one move I don't really like it as much. Or if you added this one little caveat to it, I would like it a lot better. Or let's switch it up. I feel like men want to have sex, so unless you're trying to do something super off the wall that they're not comfortable with, I feel like that more men will be like, okay, let's do that. Or, you know, let's do this, let's add this to it or whatever like that. But I just feel like both parties aren't really communicating effectively when it comes to that. Because I ask people like, yo, did you have sex, or did you have conversation with your wife about wanting to do certain things? They were like, nah.
They just do it and hope it turns out good or not.
Right.
So,
and matter of fact, let me cut you off real quick. Because I feel like the conversation we had, I feel like beginning this year or when there was our friends or whatever, that was the first time I feel like I really, I ain't say I heard you speak like that because we talk like that, but as a group, I've heard other people speak about that. And the freeness that comes with speaking about that with people who you have common interests with.
Because I think before that situation, I've told you in the past, like, how I've been out and we have conversations, and
Yeah.
you're just like, why don't you have those conversations with me?
Right.
I think it goes back to what you said in the beginning. It's I don't know if what I say will cause your ego to be bruised, if it's gonna, because you don't really know how to communicate, because no one has taught you how to have those conversations.
Right.
So I think that was a really good conversation, because we were probably there for like 4 or 5.
Is that there till like 2 or 3 o'clock in the
2
morning?
or 3 o'clock in the morning having a conversation, but it was really good because people aren't able to be free.
Yeah, and I feel like those conversations just open you up, because then you realize, like, I'm not alone in the way I feel. Or you be like, well, or it, like I said, it kind of compares you to your friend, but you be like, all right.
I'm not the only person that feel this way.
Yeah, or our friends, they having sex 5 times a week. Like, we only having sex twice a month. Like, what's the deal? Like, how can we get to that level? Or, cause I feel like some people, since they don't talk about sex, it makes it feel like what I'm doing is right, or there's no flaws in what I'm doing. But when you realize that other people are doing stuff a little bit different, and then you can say, oh, well, if they're doing that, how can we get to that level? Or, just have a conversation. It just pretty much just comes down to the conversation of it.
I think that's good. I think our next conversation needs to be on this frequency of sex. But before we get there, I think that, I guess it's kind of like a last question, because we need to wrap up. But do you feel like, because of all of this that we're speaking of, do you feel like when you have children, you are going to be comfortable enough to have those conversations, girl or boy?
I would like to say that I would, but I'm just not 100% sure. I feel like I would. Yeah, I just don't know where I would be. Since we don't have kids now, I just don't know where I'd be at that age. But I feel like I would still want to be open enough to have those conversations. Because like I said, I feel like my parents didn't really have the conversation with me until it was like already past time. Like, my dad literally came into my room like my senior prom and gave me like a big duffel bag full of condoms, and like,
What's a duffel bag? Because this bag keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Not
it's a food line bag.
It's a food line bag. But it was like a lot of condoms. Shout out to Pops. There was like a lot of condoms. Like, he's like, yo, you know what to do with these? I'm like, yeah.
But you didn't?
No, I was already having sex. I was having sex for like 2 years before that.
Okay.
So it was like, yeah. But it still wasn't an actual conversation. It was just like, here, you know what to do with these?
So what did you feel? Were you like, yes? Or were you like, this is weird?
I felt like it was weird. And then I just passed them out to my friends. They're like, yo, like, I ain't got no condom. I'm like, yo, I got a bag on. Go ahead.
Yeah, and for me, I think the conversation was strictly, you gonna get pregnant or lose a titty. Nah. Or like get sick or something, and it's something that you just don't do until you get married. But it was never talked about as a pleasurable thing. Ever.
Okay.
So, last words. What do you have to say?
To men and women, have conversations about sex. It'll make things 1,000 times better.
I don't know. It may not.
You don't think it?
I think that you should have conversations about sex, but I don't know if it'll make it 1,000 times better, because I think sometimes when you may get down to some underlying things that you don't want to hear, and you may not be receptive. So I would say just try to be receptive to things. It could go really good or it could not go so good.
But you gotta open up a conversation and be receptive.
You gotta have a conversation, but understand that it can come with many layers. Like you just learn things in the conversations.
Okay. Your final words?
We got to do better as Christians, as sisters and brothers in Christ, as parents, as whatever, and talking about that transition and not being so scared to have that conversation, because it could really save marriages. Like, a lot of people are having dead, boring sex. And I think that being able to have more of those conversations will really help some people out.
All right, cool. All right, well, this has been a great episode of Keeping It Light. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Hopefully it helps you guys to open up some conversations with your spouse, or have some conversation with the people in your church so you guys can start to bridge that gap between fornication and busting it open.
Or celibacy and busting it open. It don't have to be necessarily fornication. But
Celibacy.
Whatever you want to do is your life. You got to deal with that with God.
Yeah, not us. All right, so once again, I'm Shy Harris. And
this is Elle Harris.
And you guys have a great evening.